Hello, and welcome back to Own Your Peace. I am so excited to dive into this conversation. Today, we have Sasha Davis, who is a high performance sales strategist, a coach, and founder of Sales Mama, a global brand helping women master the art of confident, aligned sales. And known for her no fluff, high conversion coaching style, Sasha has helped hundreds of entrepreneurs grow from inconsistent income to predictable, scalable sales months. I'm so excited to welcome you on. And we are going to really talk about some things that we are seeing in both of our coaching practices about commitment and what this moment in time is asking of us. Thank you and welcome for being on the show, Sasha.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you. And I'm really looking forward to diving into these conversations because there is, like we were saying, so much happening in the world. And I think there's a lot of people that are feeling the tension or feeling the stuckness or feeling the momentum. And they're like, what do I do with this?
Yeah, it's like, I think collectively, we all are feeling this push moment.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, I don't know what to do with this. And I think Sasha and I are both projectors. So we have some insights to what we're seeing, what's coming up with the women that we're working with. And I think
Mhm.
this is, you're going to walk away from this conversation with hopefully some grounded action steps, but also some really beautiful, like aha moments of seeing yourself with the struggles that we're seeing with so many of the women that we're working with. And I have been following Sasha. We've connected a couple months ago, but I've been loving her content. And she really does just break down sales and make it not feel like you're a car salesman in the 90s. Like, it's so funny. I love the work that I do. And I know the work I do really blesses the women that I work with. But I know personally, when it comes to sales, there's a block there. And it's one that I'm working with because I know when I talk about what I do, it blesses people. But
Yeah.
also at the same time, it's easy to like feel like you're a sales bro or that you're like this cheesy car salesman. I'm so excited for you to kind of help people move through that and walk away from this conversation with maybe a different way of seeing things.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about the bro sales and the bro marketing because I always say I'm anti-bro.
100%. And we should, and that's the thing, like it doesn't work for us when we do it that
No.
way either.
No. No, and it's not that I have anything against men or, guys or anything like that, but I just find that a lot of the older outdated strategies that even I learned 10, 15, 20 years ago, they're still being taught today, but things have changed. The foundation of sales, yes, it's the exchange of money. Like that is still very, very much relevant. But how sales was taught 10 or 20 years ago is not necessarily how it should be taught or works for people today. And when we look at it from a different lens of, men and women are just, they're different, right? And then within that scope, there's different personalities too. And there's different ways of doing things. And there's introverts and there's extroverts and there's projectors and there's manifestors and there's all these different components to who you are, all these different parts of who you are. And so it's how do we build a sales process that feels authentic to you and genuine to you, but also emphasizes your sales superpowers is kind of how I put it. And so that one size fits all, trainings that people have done in the past, they don't really work for today's people. And so I like to teach what your sales superpower is and how your sales personality blends with who you are as a person and what you're meant to do. And then when you can learn the actual sales skills within that, that's where sales starts to become easy and fun and aligned. And you don't have those like gross, nasty feelings about, oh, I'm going to pressure this person into doing something.
Yeah. I feel like that's a place that a lot of people get to is they're
Yeah.
excited about their product, but then when it gets to sales, it's like you feel uncomfortable for the ask, right?
Mhm.
How do you help people find their sales personality?
Yeah, so I actually have a quiz that I have people go through.
Okay.
It's salesmama.biz/quiz if anybody's looking to take
We'll make
it.
sure that's in the show
Um,
notes.
but what ends up happening is we'll find out that they have really one of four different personalities. You typically have like a primary and then a secondary. And then once you start to learn all of these things, you'll be a well-rounded gem, if you will. So I actually learned this methodology from a woman named Danny Johnson. She has this GEMS methodology. And so I add my sales mama swing to it because I add like the motherhood layer and the projector layer and the discomfort layer and the self-sabotaging. So I have all of these different layers that I add into it. But typically, I'll have these people take a quiz and see how they naturally start to interact with people and how they naturally are as a buyer. And so with these buyer personalities, I high level will tell you that there is an emerald, a ruby, a pearl, and a sapphire. And so emeralds are going to be your logical buyers. That's actually a very small portion of the population and an even smaller portion of women. There's just not a lot of emerald buyers where they buy solely on logic, solely on black and white. Now, men have a little bit higher of that tendency, right? Like my husband is an emerald, for example. Like he's like, tell me how this is going to directly make a return on my investment. I need to know all of the details. Give me all the details. And some people get really bogged down by details. So your emeralds are going to be the detail-oriented people. Okay. Next is going to be the rubies. The rubies are going to be those very bold, very direct, like, don't tell me a bunch of stuff. Like, tell me exactly how this is going to work for me and why you are the best. Okay. They're going to be, and so a lot of times people will be very intimidated by rubies. That's just their personality. They are not there to try to intimidate anybody. But when people get questioned on sales calls where a ruby would throw back a question at you, that's how you really know that that's a ruby. They'll ask things like, what are your success rates? And how are you going to be the one that helps me? And sometimes that can be very intimidating for people. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of your ruby. A lot of times they want like the best experience. They want a VIP experience. They're typically the ones that like only work with people one-on-one. Like they're like, I want your undivided attention. That's another sign that it could potentially be a ruby.
Okay.
The next one that I want to talk about is a pearl. Pearls are typically your introverts. They're the, I want to save the whales, save the babies. They're thinking about their community. They're thinking about their family. A lot of times they can be soft-spoken. They look like, sometimes they lack confidence on sales calls. And so you really have to build a lot of that connection before you even start to get into like their pain points and whatnot. And so if you come off too strong on a pearl, you're going to chase them away. They're going to go inwards. They're going to put up a wall and they're going to ghost you. Like the pearls are the ones that ghost you. And then sapphires are the last one. And I'm primarily a sapphire with a little bit of an underlying ruby. I can be very well-rounded though. So I can do, a little bit of all of them, but generally speaking, that's my primary is a sapphire. And so sapphires like to focus on big vision and how is this going to get me to my next level? How is this going to help my goal? Who else is going to be in the room? What is the energy going to be like? Is it going to be fun? Is it going to be exciting? Are you going to be able to keep my attention for longer than 15 seconds? And so sapphires really like to have that fast action type of stuff too, like how quickly can we move through this type of thing? And so you'll have to make sure that you have things that grab their attention, speak to that bigger vision, speak to that higher level, and they don't want to be bogged down by details. So if you start explaining to me that this is how many calls we're going to have, and this is what the curriculum looks, you're going to lose me. I'm going to be like, I'm out. Like, I just need to know, is this thing going to help me? And how quickly will it help me? And do I actually like you? And can you maintain high energy throughout this? And are we going to focus on the big vision? And so a lot of times they also want to know, like, who else is there? Like, who else is in the room? Am I going to like the vibe of this room type of thing?
Okay.
So those are your different buyers. And so each of them buy differently. Emeralds and pearls have a longer buying process because they take more time to think. Whereas rubies and sapphires, they're like, if this is going to do it, like I'm all in. And so you have to figure out who you're talking to and how that works for you and your sales process, your funnel, your mission, your vision, and incorporate all of that into your marketing and sales process. I know that was a very long answer. So
I love it. I'm sure as people are listening to even myself, I was kind of going through like, where did I identify with? Like, I feel like there's some logic to my decisions. Like I want to see like the details, like what is included in this thing, but also I am that like, what's the vibe? Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm like on either spectrum of that.
Yeah.
Which is my projector brain, just kind of like wanting to know how things work actually. Right. So I feel like people are going to identify with those four.
Yeah.
So once they kind of figure out that buying style, what kind of helps? I know you had mentioned that there's so many layers to the work you do. So people understanding even how they sell, even how they buy, how helpful that is to their process.
Mhm.
Where are you seeing where people are getting stuck beyond that?
So where I see people get stuck beyond that, like what we were talking about before we even hit record, is the price points. Like the other day, I was talking to my group. I was doing a teaching, and we were talking all about pricing structures. And so before I even got into how to price for profit, I said, "Who here feels uncomfortable with their prices or that they're undercharging themselves?" Almost everybody raised their hand. And I'm like, why? Why are we why aren't we charging the thing that actually makes us like you are the creator of your reality. You are your own boss. You are the CEO. Like you need to be making sure that you feel good and energized and happy and successful with the price points that you have. But I find that all of these underlying beliefs come up of I'm not worthy. This is how much this person is charging. I don't know if I can ask for that much. What happens if they say no? Or the other thing is there's a couple of people that I spoke with that they are charging, surface value. This is how much I want to charge, but they've never actually collected that much because they're immediately discounting their services when they're getting on the phone with somebody. And so it's how do we dive into that and really uncover where that comes from and how we can move through that? Because there's two things that are happening. One, if you charge a lower price point, your client is going to show up at that level of the investment. Okay. So people will only do the work to the amount of the price point that you are offering. The other thing that happens is if you undercharge yourself, you can show up bitter, angry, resentful, and you are not showing up to the best of your ability. So you're actually doing a huge disservice to yourself, to your client, to your community by undercharging and undervaluing yourself and not pricing for profit. A lot of people don't take into consideration all of the overhead, all of the time, all of the education, all of the knowledge that you have. So, for example, if we're using round numbers, we say it's $1,000 a month to work with me. We're just going to use round numbers. Okay. But if really you want to be charging $2,000, okay, you are going to show up at that $1,000 level and be secretly thinking like, ugh, I should be charging $2,000 because by the end of the day, I'm only making $15 an hour. Because if you think about how much time and energy and all of the funds that you have spent on your education or your experience, like what should you be charging?
Such a beautiful question for people to ask. And I think that is one of the things I see quite a bit too. The question I ask is, and I'm sure you do the same thing, is what feels good in the body?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like when you think about charging a certain price, if it's too little, you're going to feel tightness. You're going to feel like that doesn't feel resonate in my body. It doesn't feel good. Or you're going to feel weird about it. Like it's too much. Or if you're charging too much, you're going to feel weird about that too. So,
Exactly.
there's a lot of people like charge more, charge more, maybe, but also like, what your actual value is. It usually is more than what you think, but you also have to be okay with where you're at currently.
Yes.
Right. And you need to know that that feels good. So yes, it should scare you a little bit, right? To bump those up, but also be nervous system aware
Very much
of where you're at currently.
Yeah.
And it's a process, right? If you're like currently charging $1,000 and that feels icky, but 2,000 is outside of that nervous system level of okayness, maybe we start at 1,200. Then we start at 1,300. And that's the conversation I have with people. I really want them to understand that the answers that they really need are in reaching into the etherical and looking for a sign. It's really like, what is the body telling you? What feels good? Really kind of centering into that because the body's going to tell you what you're okay with.
Absolutely.
And it's not going to lie.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not. And you're very much right because I'll ask people like, what feels good? Like, does this feel good? Do you feel tension? Do you feel relief? Do you feel joy? Right. And so I'll ask them to identify the emotion or the feeling that they're having. And what I find is, people will say, oh, I want to charge 2,000, but I'm only charging 1,000. And just like you said, if that's too big of a jump, it's also not going to work because you're going to have too much fear and too much dysregulation that you're actually going to push those people away and you're not going to show up confidently on those calls. And so this is where I tell people incremental upgrades. Okay. Yes. And this is where, yes, we start at the 1,000, then maybe we go up to 1,250, then maybe we go up to 1,500, then maybe we go up to 1,750. And then finally we're at the point of 2,000. Okay. But how do we move through that? And so I kind of have this rule of 5, if you will. And so it's okay, sell 5 at the $1,000 and then bump up your price point. Sell 5 at the $1,250, like consistently, right? You want to make sure that your conversion rates are high. So average conversion rates and how you can tell where your price point is at and what you need to work on is a lot. Like if you are the business owner, you are the CEO, and you are doing your sales calls, you should really be closing about 60 to 80% of your calls. And so if it's higher than that or lower than that, you can start to think about, okay, is my price point right? Am I doing the right things? How am I feeling energetically? How am I feeling about the delivery of it? Because some people are doing one-on-one and they don't even want to be doing one-on-one. So, it's taking all of that into consideration too. And like, if you want to be making a, quote unquote, a lot of money, one-on-one is a great way to make a lot of money fast. But you also have to make sure that you have the energetic and physical capacity to be able to then deliver on that one-on-one. And so maybe that's not the best path. Maybe it's a digital product. Maybe it's a retreat. Maybe it's a group call. So we have to also take those things into consideration, that it's not always just a price jump, but sometimes a pricing restructuring or a product restructuring, a service restructuring that then prices you for profit without you having to spend more time or energy maintaining this thing that we've created.
Yeah, I absolutely love that you brought that up, because that's a huge thing, is like, are you going after a dollar amount and
Mm-hmm.
you're only seeing this is the path, this is what everybody else is doing, this is, what the experts are saying. I did that in air quotes
Yep.
there. Um, what feels good, going back to like that nervous system regulation of like, do I want to be stuck on one-on-one calls all day?
Yep.
Does that actually fuel me? And maybe it's a mix of both, but finding out, like really listening to and getting to where it feels good for a sustainable business.
Yep.
And that's at the end of the day, that's a question, is what looks sustainable for you? And I know for us as projectors, doing one-on-one calls all day long isn't sustainable.
Yep.
I have 2 days a week where I do my one-on-one calls,
Yep.
and that's what I do. And then I have, little one-offs there, but most of my time is built on building courses and structures that are more hands-off, so that I'm honoring my energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that when I am showing up one-on-one with clients, I'm 100% in it, because I'm not scattered. And that's
Yep.
why I charge a higher rate for one-on-ones with me, because you're getting my undivided attention. And
Yep.
that's a high commodity for me.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'm the same way. Like I'm very limited in who I work with one-on-one. I'm very particular about who I work with one-on-one. And I like to think of this as people have to have a certain amount of prerequisites before they get to that one-on-one price, or like one-on-one packaging, if you will.
Right.
And so how I think of this is not that I want to like put people on levels or anything like that, but somebody had made this analogy recently, and it really stuck with me, because I used to do, if you're in elementary, I need you to be in high school before you get to college type of thing, right? And so it's like you have these paths and these certain level of skills and knowledge that you have to have in order to be able to understand and comprehend this next thing that I'm going to teach you in a one-on-one setting. And so I actually heard it on an Alex Hermosi podcast the other day, where he goes, a lot of people are only teaching Spanish 6 and they're not teaching Spanish 1 through 5. And so if somebody comes in with only a Spanish 1 knowledge and you're selling them on a Spanish 6, is it that they don't, you know what I mean? Is it that they're not successful, or is it that you only know how to teach Spanish 6 and they didn't have the prerequisites to be able to really learn the skill at the level and the depth that you are teaching here? And so I have levels. I have Spanish 1 through 6. And so you're not going to be invited into Spanish 6 unless you've completed Spanish 1 through 5. And so I think this is really important to figure out who your people are and where your people are at and what level you're teaching at, and to be very, very intentional about your boundaries around the container that you are creating and the services that you provide, because it can, the first word that comes to mind is like tarnish your reputation or tarnish the container of the space if you're allowing people outside of that to come into it, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. And I think you bring up a really good point, is if you're delivering at Spanish 6 level. I love that, by the way.
Yeah,
That was a beautiful ad there.
Podcast. It was Alex Hermosi on it, one of his, and I was like, this is really good analogy.
I would love to look at his human design chart.
Just oh my gosh, right?
Right. I would love to know how that guy's functioning. Just gonna throw that out there. But yeah, like if you're teaching Spanish 6 and then you have people who are coming in at 1 or 2 levels and they're not prepared for that what you're teaching, they're not
Mhm.
going to see the value.
No.
They're going to be so confused and so underwhelmed or overwhelmed and treat it like
Yep.
underwhelm,
Yep.
where it is going to come back on you. I know I'm a 5-1 in human design. So I am, people will project quite a bit on me because they see me as the fixer, that I can solve all their problems. So if I don't set the expectations of what this container looks like, and I'm very firm on what it looks like, and I think everyone really should define what it is that you're going to receive and what this actually looks like, then you're going to have pushback. You're going to have people who are like, well, this isn't what I signed up for. This is, and again,
Absolutely.
tarnish your reputation. And that's really something to think about when you're putting together their sales pages, when you're doing sales calls, when you're building anything. Because I know that, my listeners here on Own Your Piece they're all over the place. They're, either starting something out or they're really on, they're on all 6 levels of
Mhm.
Spanish. And we welcome all, but really defining where you're at and what you're wanting to give back to the world and what level, and making sure that that language is there.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
that's really important. And I'm so grateful that that entered the chat.
Yeah, no kidding. I think it's important to have very clear, this is who I'm helping and this is who I'm not helping, because that will actually attract the right people to you and repel the wrong people from you. And so this is where you become a magnet of your own life. And the clearer that you can be on the things that you are going to provide for somebody, that's only going to set them up for success. And so there's this whole idea around expectations and asking for help and asking for what you need and setting the expectation and setting a clear expectation. And so I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here
Let's
because
do
I
it.
think that this is what really does set people up for success, is having clear expectations, not
Mhm.
just, hey, this is what you can, hey, this is what we're going to do, this is this, but milestones and a framework and a process. And there's so many people they're almost self-sabotaging because they're like, I just want to wing it, I'm just going to fly by the seat of my pants, I'm a free spirit, or I'm this or I'm that. And like, great, you can be all of those things, but in order to guide somebody, you have to have a blueprint and you have to have a process. You can't just wing it all the time, because you're actually not going to help that person to the ability that you could if you had a blueprint and a map and milestones and mile markers and things that you can really like check off the list. And this goes
Yes.
for people that you hire within your business too, because I've worked with people who are ready to make their first hire or who have made a hire and they're like, it didn't work out. Or they'll say that if they've hired a coach, oh, it didn't work out. I'm like, is it that it didn't work out, or is it that you had mismatched expectations or no expectations for this other person? Say you're hiring somebody, you just expect them to fix it, but you've given them no playbook, no step by step, no training, no nothing. And how are they supposed to be successful if there's no blueprint to follow?
Right. I was talking to somebody, they were like, I hate that freaking word, because they were that more like ethereal, like I just want to fly,
Oh,
more spiritual SOPs, right? Like standard operating
yes.
procedures. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't care how spiritual your business is. I don't care how you're functioning, but you need structures of support. If you don't like the word SOP, right?
Yeah.
You need a system to run through. And I'm going to be completely vulnerable and open here. I launched Ignite Your Type, which is my program that I have put my soul and my heart into. Um, but it was very much like, this can help everybody and it's so great. And when you know your energetic type, like everything changes, which it does, but I wasn't giving people a system to follow. It was just like,
Yeah.
here's a really like a purple diarrhea of
Yeah.
all my best stuff. But what I've done and what I've pulled back and what I've learned is that now there's a process. It's called the
Mhm.
Phoenix process, where now we go through this process
Right.
of rising. And now we do step one. Then we
Yeah.
do phase two, we do phase three, and it really guides them through their own becoming. But I
Mhm.
learned that in a really messy, hard way.
Yeah.
But now I learned that. And what would I have saved myself 10, 12 steps if I would have hung out with Sasha a little sooner? Probably. Probably. And now I know who I'm helping even more. So now I'm not just
Mhm.
helping everybody who thinks human design is cool, because everybody does. Like, why wouldn't you?
Yep.
I'm really here to help women who are in this place of self-discovery. They've raised their kids, or they're in this transitionary space of like they've done all the things. Now they don't know what to do next. And it's like really that late 30s, 40s and beyond that I'm finding women really just kind of coming into their own and not giving a shit anymore and ready to do something different.
Yeah.
So even, going about one step further has made all the difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what Sasha's talking about right now is you've got to get really clear on who you're serving and then create a system to serve those
Yes.
systems of support. It goes back to that. So I again, would have saved me a bunch of steps.
Oh man. I mean, it would have saved me a ton too. Cause when I've been in business for about 10 years now, almost 10 years now. And so Sales Mama has been around for 4 or 5 years. But even before that, I was that, oh, I'm just going to wing it. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do that. And I've always had curriculums and processes that I've worked, through, and people had really great success, but I didn't have something that was, we have to check these boxes, or we have to hit these steps, or if we have to hit these milestones. And milestones meaning for them, not necessarily that like I have to say they have to hit each and every one of these milestones. I have my own milestones, and then I have milestones that they need to hit. And so it's to some degree customizable based on that person and who they are at their core and at their soul level. So I don't have this one size fits all approach, but I do need people to be at a certain level in order to be able to comprehend the things that I am teaching. And so I have learned that over the past years that I am not if you're thinking about starting a business, I am not your person. I am not your person. Like after you've built that business and you've figured out like who your person is and how do I really optimize this business, I am now your person. Okay. And so that's something that I think we all have to figure out. And that's that messy middle that people get so uncomfortable about because they're like, oh, I just want to help everybody, or oh, I don't want to be too structured, or oh, I don't want to be this. And I think we all learn on our own path. And so what I say to people is, yes, it's okay to work with people one-on-one until you figure out exactly who you want to help. And then you create your process from those one-on-ones or from those interactions, because you can have the perfect course or the perfect product or the perfect process. But if you've never actually intentionally walked somebody through it, chances are it's going to fall flat. And so this is where I see a lot of entrepreneurs or people who are building businesses that have never tried any of their things. They've never walked themselves through it, or they've never walked anybody else through it. And then they're like, I'm having a hard time selling this. I'm like, because you don't even know if it works. Like, how, you know what I mean? And so once you figure out if what you're doing works, then I will help you create the sales systems and the process and the funnel. But I'm not here to trial and error what works for you. You have to figure that out on your own, right? And so I think that's, even a level of like getting very clear on who I want to help, how I want to help them, who this person is, where do they hang out, what are the results, what are their pain points? Because so many people focus on the results or the benefits, and it's like, they're not really looking at that right now. They're looking about how do I avoid this pain that I'm in,
Right. Yeah, we're meeting them where they're at, trying to get into their head of like, what are they Googling at night? What are they chat
Yes.
GPTing at night? Like, what are the thoughts in their head so that when your content comes across their screen, it's like, how are you reading my soul right now?
Yeah.
I mean, just think about the ads and the content that you say, that you share. It's like you feel so seen in that content, right? And that's what's sticky about it.
Yes.
And so when you can start to really understand the psychology of your person and you know who you're talking to, then you get to a whole new level,
Yep.
right? Because you understand that person. And a lot of times, FYI, it's usually you or a past version of you, and you're just a few steps ahead. And that's where it gets really exciting.
Yeah.
And then, these are the things that I've sabotaged in myself. And now I can see how I can help you avoid some of the sabotage that I came into. But everyone has their own sabotage trauma methods. And this is a conversation we talked about before we hopped on, is like it gets to be to a point where you have to make a commitment and a devotion to your business and to what, if you're not in a business yet, what are you wanting to build for yourself? And starting treating it like it's something that you want to nourish and that you want to build, not this like cute little side hustle that you maybe spend a few hours on every day. Where are you wanting to settle right now? What feels good to you? What are you wanting to build? These are the questions you need to be asking yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, and this has been a realization of myself in the past couple of years is that I have really uncovered that I don't want to work with, nor do I work with people anymore that operate as a side hustle, or they have a 9 to 5 and they're trying to create a side hustle. Because in my experience, and this may be just my experience, but the people that I have worked with that have treated it like a side hustle or who have a 9 to 5 to fall back on, they are not as committed. Because what I have found is when things get tough, because they will, I think it's so much crap out there that it's like, oh, everything is easy and effortless, and that's the goal. Like, that's what we want, everything.
Right.
But there will be contrast, and the contrast is welcomed because that contrast tells you what you do not want, okay, and what's not
Yes.
working. And it's up to you to figure out, okay, this is what I don't want, but also how bad do I want it? So am I able to move through my own blocks to get to the other side? Like, there's no clear path through the forest. Like, you have to go through the mud and the muck to get to the other side, type of thing. And I think when things start to get challenging, people recognize that as, oh, this wasn't meant for me, or, oh, maybe I wasn't supposed to do this. It's like, or maybe you're being challenged on how bad do you want this? And so
Yes.
I don't really work with very, very, very few people at this point that have those types of lives, because when it gets tough, they fall back on what's easy. And I'm not here for what's easy. I'm here for what you're meant to be here for. And so if you can't take a little bit of tough love or a little bit of discomfort, I am not your person, like not your person at all. I'm not here to coddle you. I'm not here to tell you that, oh, everything should be easy and fun and da 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 all the time, because there has to be the contrast. There's the light and the dark and the feminine and the masculine and the yin and the yang and the full moon and the new moon. And so it's never going to be rainbows and butterflies all the time.
Right. And polarity has its place.
Yes.
Right? Like,
Mhm.
I'm all for building a life that you love and having
Yes.
fun and joy and play and really having all those things be a part of it. Does that mean that every step in my process is easy? Absolutely not.
Mm-mm.
And it's at every hurdle, at every pushback that you have to look at it as this is a level up point,
Mhm.
right? And it's at those points where it is easiest to quit. It is easiest to call it a sign that you're not meant to do this, that it's
Mhm.
really the universe being like, do you really want this?
Yeah.
Are you ready for this next level? And it's in those moments where it looks the darkest before the dawn that it's really like, okay, are you really going to practice what you preach? Are
Yeah.
you really going to go the distance here? Because it always rewards. It always, always rewards when you make the bet on yourself,
Mhm.
even when the odds are against you.
Yeah.
When everything looks like shit, this is going to hell in a handbasket. I don't know if this is going to work out. It's at those moments that I know, okay, cool.
Yeah.
This is where we level up. This is when I get, things just start to fall into place, and then it gets to be easy. It gets to be flow. It gets to be fun. It gets to have joy. And then you'll probably hit another level up point where that challenge is going to come in your place again. And it's in those moments, I'm sure like at the level that you're at, you've had several of those moments. If you're not,
I
if
still have those moments. Like,
right,
people look at me and they're like, "Oh, you have it all figured out." And like, people will be like, "Oh my God, you're so successful." And I actually just wrote a blog post about this not too long ago, because I'm like, yes, I recognize that I have had levels of success, but it's not successful at every turn. Like, if you saw how many times I failed to have this level of quote unquote success, you wouldn't think it was as easy as it was, you know? Like,
they're like meeting you at like chapter 56 and they miss the first damn part of the book.
yes, like, and I think it's important to also recognize like what is truly not aligned and what is just resistance, because I think this is where, again, people they'll look at somebody or they'll look at something or they'll look at their own contrast in life and be like, oh, this is just no longer aligned. And so they're using that as a scapegoat in a form of self-sabotage. And they don't even know it because they're just like using these words and these languages that feel good to them in the moment. But really it's self-sabotaging them by taking that easy route. And so it's like recognizing what is truly not aligned, what are red flags in your life, what is not going to serve you at your highest level, and what is just resistance. Because we all know, like, I go back to the analogy of like your physical body and working out, because going that extra mile is going to make your heart stronger. It's going to make you stronger. You're going to have more confidence. You're going to have, or that one last rep, even though it's so hard. Is it just not aligned that you don't want to do it? Or is it just that you're experiencing resistance because you've already ran so far and you don't know if you can go anymore, So think about it in that moment. Like, is this actually just like, oh, I'm just going to stop and give up because I don't really want to go that extra mile? Or is it just that you need to suck it up and like, create a path and like push through type of thing?
Right. And only you know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
It's, and it gets to the point where like, do I just need to put my big girl panties on and get this done?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I spiritually bypassing and taking the easy way out and really not being of service to myself?
Yeah.
Right. So when I get to those moments, because there are moments where I'm like, you know what, this really isn't aligned and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like in my soul knowing that this is a path forward. It's okay if I put this down.
Yeah.
And that is, and it's one of those things that I really want you to sit with things when you're in discomfort.
Yep.
Sit with it. Be with it. Don't just immediately bypass it, but sit with it and sit with really the foundations of it. Is it just discomfort because you're going through a growth spurt? Mm-hmm. Is it just because you need to run the extra mile and you don't really want to, but you know that it's going to be a benefit to you? Or is it really like, don't run that extra mile? There's going to be something that's not going to be there on the other side of that mile. And it's time for you to divert your path.
Yes.
Right? And that is where it does get a little confusing for people, because it is like, again, and only you know the answer to that. It takes some time. It takes some sitting with that discomfort, really being with it and trusting. But it's going to be more than just a quick decision.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm kind of a verbal processor. So usually I'll like bounce ideas off of people and like based on what they're saying, I'm like, oh, that's an immediate no. Or like, okay, I see that this is a yes. And so I pay attention to those things too. Or I'm a big journaler. And so like, I'll just put everything out on paper and I'll start to analyze it. Like I'll put my researcher hat on. But things that start to show up for me when I know something is no longer aligned is I do get burnt out. I get very overwhelmed. I get very angry. I get very bitter. I start to get like this type of, mentality where I'm like, screw everybody. I need a vacation. I'm like, I'm not doing it. Like, this is not happening anymore. And so I start to recognize like those emotions. And then I'm like, okay, is it in this moment that this thing is not aligned, or do I need to put this in a parking lot for later? Or what do I need to do with this? But like, I recognize that those emotions start to come up, and then I really have to take a look at it. Like, am I just doing this because somebody else told me to do this? Am I just doing this because I'm running on autopilot? Am I just doing this because this is the thing that I'm seeing here, or somebody said this, or somebody said that, or blah, 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 blah. It's not actually coming from me. Is this coming from outside of me or within me? And then where am I going to take it from there? And so I start to dissect it. I call all the roles in life are hats that we put on. Like, I'm in mom mode now. I'm putting mom hat on. I'm putting business hat on. I'm putting coach hat on. And the researcher hat is the one that I do. I'll put my researcher hat on and I'll try to analyze my thoughts as if they were somebody else, and I'm coaching myself through this process. And so that has actually worked really well for me when I just look at really what is and where I'm going, and does this path actually make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to look at it, is to, ask people in your life and get feedback. I don't ever say
it's feedback, because it's just feedback. I'm like, what do you think about this? Hypothetically thinking, if somebody were doing this, this, and this, like, what would you say about that? Or if I said this, and I'm taking everything as feedback, never for gospel. And so
never
based off of how they repeat things back to me or what they're hearing off of what I'm saying, I'm like, oh, okay, that's an immediate no. Or, no. Oh God, I'm just being a baby. Like,
right. And that's exactly what it is. It's feedback. So that's a really good point that you brought up there. when you're having conversations with your spouse or your girlfriends, or even a coach that you're working with,
Hmm.
it's really important for you to use it, hold it, feel it, and then never hold anything that doesn't feel true.
Yeah.
Right. If it doesn't resonate on that soul level. Because again, at the end of the day, the only guru for you is you.
Yep.
Like, you and I are both coaches. We can see, what makes sense, what we're hearing and feeling and seeing within you. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. You're the one who has to
Mhm.
live this life.
Yep.
You have to
100%.
live with the decisions you're making. I can tell you what to do. Sasha can tell you what to do. We're both really good at what we do, telling people what to do. I always like to say trajectories, we're never bossy. We're just aggressively helpful.
That's exactly. People are like, I have this like RBF face all the time. And I'm like, I promise when you get to know me, like, I'm not that way, but I will tell things how I see it and you can take it or leave it. Like, I don't care. You are. I have this phrase and I don't remember where I got it from, but it's like radical responsibility. It's like I will teach you all the skills, but it's up to you to take radical responsibility for your life and put the pieces of your puzzle together. Like I will, like, here's the box. I will show you what the picture is. Like this is the big picture that I see for you, but it's up to you to actually put the pieces together in a way that works for you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think that's what our job is as a
Yeah.
coach is we help you see the puzzle
Hmm.
that's available for you.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And, all puzzles obviously have to fit a certain way for them to
Yes.
in,
Yeah.
traditional puzzle style. So like we're going to go abstract here and you can put that puzzle together any way that you want and it's going to be beautiful. Right. But we know the pieces that are there that need to be a part of what you're doing.
Hmm.
And that is really what working with Sasha, working with me, working with a coach can do for you. Even Olympic athletes, even people who are functioning at really high levels always have a coach in their corner
Yep.
because it helps you get that feedback, helps
Hmm.
you see your blind spots, seeing things that you're not seeing for yourself.
Yeah.
Because I always like to say, like, we don't see our own soup.
No,
We're
no,
s-
there's that phrase of like, and again, I don't remember who said this, but it's always stuck with me is it's you can't read your own label from inside the jar. And so we're all in our
Mm.
own jar of life. And so that outside perspective can be very helpful to have somebody be able to be like, oh, this is what your jar says, or oh, this is what is over here, or, oh, this is what's over there, or oh, if you just do this. And so again, not taking everything for gospel, but as for feedback. But it's also nice to see things from other perspectives and other personalities and other angles and other, so that you can get this big full picture of what your life could look like or what path you are on and how to get there quicker.
Yeah. And that's what it is. It's feedback.
Yeah.
And it's learning from that feedback. And it's so, as you're on this process, starting a business, building a business, and really growing something, or even if you're growing who you are as a person and you
Yeah.
just want to improve how you're being a human every day, it's the same process. But when you stay stuck in comfort and complacency, that's what you're not being of service to anyone, whether that be building a business or becoming a better person. But be committed, be devoted to what you want out of your life. I think sometimes, I don't know if you feel this way too, but it's like, in the notebook when they're taught, when Noah and what's her bucket
What do
are
you
on there,
want?
what do you want? Like, I feel like that's what 90% of my job is
Mhm.
helping people get clear. We have this one and only life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's debatable, right?
I mean, in this moment, we are
In this
living this
lifetime,
life.
in this version of Sasha Davis, you only have one version. You have one life. In this
Yes.
version of Andy Thusen, you only have one way of doing this thing.
Yes.
And you are the master director, creator of your own life. And why wouldn't you want to become the fullest expression of that?
Yep.
Whatever that looks like for you. And that is
Hmm.
a thing that I love getting behind
Hmm.
is like, let's figure out what the fullest expression of you could be.
Hmm.
Let's build the map. Let's build what that looks like and move into it. But that's your responsibility. I think there's nothing that is not available for you.
Yeah.
The only thing that's stuck in your own way is your own idea of what limits and limits and restrictions are in your path. this is what I think I see so much of, and I would love your perspective on this,
Yeah.
is right now we live in a really hard world.
Yes.
We look at the economy, we look at the Epstein files, we look at the wars, we look at everything around us. And if you're plugged into that, it can feel really, really limiting,
Hmm.
really, really like, why do I even care anymore? But I think the biggest act of rebellion that we can do right now when the world's up in smoke is to live our damn life on our own terms and to create a life that is beyond our wildest dreams. I think that's the craziest, most wildest act of rebellion each and every one of us can step into right now.
Yeah. Well, it just goes back to the whole we can't pour from an empty cup, right? And so, how do we change the world? I think entrepreneurs and healers are going to change the world because clearly it's not our government.
Clearly not.
We can have
Nobody's
a
coming to save us.
I mean, and I am very patriotic. I am very patriotic. Like I am, so it's not that like I hate the United States or anything like that, but I just think that, there are a lot of things in shambles right now. But also, what you focus on, you get more of. And believe it or not, everything that we interact with in life, we are consuming on some level. So when you turn on the TV, when you turn on, look at your phone, when you're interacting with people, if you're constantly interacting with negative, 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 you are going to absorb that and intentionally or unintentionally start to create your reality based on those things that you are consuming. So, again, going back to like your act of rebellion, yes, the act of rebellion is to put boundaries around those things. And I'm not saying put your head in the sand and bury yourself to where you're not knowledgeable about what's going on in the world, but be very intentional about where you get your information and how you consume that information. And then what you're doing with that. Are you hanging on to that? Because that can start to manifest into not so great things within your internal body and external world. So very important that you move through those things and recognize them, but also let them go and know that that experience is not your experience in this moment to hang on to. And so if you go back 100 or 200 years, we were very much in our own world and our own village and our own family, creating and now that we've been really opened up to all of the things that are going on in the world, it can be a very helpless feeling knowing that there's starving children over here or that people are dying over there. And so if you can't immediately change their reality, you have to find a way to process it and focus on how you can change your reality till you get to the point to where you can then make an impact in somebody else's life. And so this is where it's so important that you focus on you and do the things that are going to help you fill your cup to the point where it's so overflowing that you can then pour into others. And this is why it's so important for anybody out there that is in a career or in a business or looking to change, the trajectory of their life. By you doing that, the more you make, the more you give. The more you can change yourself, the more of a ripple effect you will have on the world, because you can't force anybody else to change. But by you changing so much and being so open and vulnerable and authentic in yourself, that is going to radiate from you and people will start to consume your positive energy. And that's really how you're going to make an impact.
1,000% that you touched on so many beautiful points there. It starts with us. It starts with our own revolution of
Mhm.
who we are and how we're showing up in the world. I always like to say unplug from reality. Yes, be somewhat aware of what's going on in the world. I think that's important to be somewhat, but don't buy into those timelines, because by you buying into them, you're feeding them
Yes.
and you're giving them what they want most, your energy.
Mhm.
So when you call that back and you hold on to it and you start creating different for yourself, you start seeing possibility, you start seeing that when I show up in my truest, most authentic form, I help this person.
Mhm.
I'm giving permission slips to these people, because that's what's going to make the difference. Is if all of us decide to just throw out the rule books of these, conceptions and all these different frameworks that have been built that are now crumbling, then we start to create different, and the whole thing changes. We get rid of schools that no longer serve. We get
Yep.
out of governments that no longer serve. Instead of it being red, white, black, whatever, let's have it be what's best for humanity. I
Yeah.
always like to say, I think we should make up a new political party. Let's call it purple. It's the
Yeah.
middle way. There's good and bad on both sides. There's no right or wrong here.
I know it's so funny when you even say like agree with anything or disagree with anything, all of a sudden that person takes it. And I'm not saying that it's just one person, but typically what ends up happening is we take it to the extreme. And so I think now more than ever is for us to work on our own inner self, our own emotional intelligence, our own regulation, because you will start to see things for what they are and not what you think they are or what somebody has told you that they are. And just because somebody says one thing here does not mean that there is extremes on every level. There's so much gray area that we need to recognize.
There's so much great. There's so many nuances. There's so
Yeah.
many ways things can be edited
Mm-hmm.
to be portrayed a certain way when it was absolutely not that way.
Yep.
And so you have to look at everything with intelligence and with intuition and with
Mm-hmm.
your own connection to self
Yep.
so that you're seeing things in truth. Because when you cut off all the noise, when you call back your energy fully and you're really truly in your own body, all these things become what they truly are, noise.
Noise, exactly. Yeah. Because my husband will say, or some people will say to me, whether it's my spouse or somebody else, they're like, how are you not bothered by this? And I'm like, because I recognize it for what it is. I recognize what I can control right now. And I'm regulating myself. Like, you know what I mean? And so once you start to really work on yourself and have that level of, like, again, emotional intelligence and spiritual awareness and all of these things, you will become aware and unbothered. And then that gives you permission to then really focus on you. And again, what you can control immediately. And that's really where the magic starts to happen, is like you make an impact based on what you can immediately control.
Yes. And really seeing for what it really is, which is a game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Game of life.
A game
I
of
always say
life.
that.
It's like we're all, there's you
We're
can
floating on a rock through space.
through space. There's no controllables other than what you personally can control. So why are you putting energy into celebrities and to all these
Oof.
things which you can't control or have no connection to? I'm like, I
Yeah.
want you to be so obsessed with your own life the way you're
Mhm.
obsessed about Travis and Taylor. Like,
Oh, yeah.
come on,
Oh,
get that
yes.
excited about your own life. The
Yeah.
whole world shutting down over an engagement. Are you kidding me right now? That's the commitment and devotion I want to your own life.
Yes. 100%. Exactly.
My goodness, the world that we live in, it's a great place. And I'm so excited to be a part of it. I'm excited to see when more and more of us step into our power, when we
Yeah.
step into really doing the work that we're here to do. Like Sasha's doing amazing work helping businesses feel really confident in their sales. And I always end my podcast asking this question of my guests because I think it really is such a cool piece. And the question is, what is your piece of the puzzle in the collective puzzle?
Yes. So in the collective puzzle, yes, it comes down to sales, but really what it comes down to is making sure that you are showing up as your most powerful, authentic, authoritative, badass self so that you can make the impact that you were meant to make on this planet. And so how I help with that is taking your magic and teaching you how to connect with people on a deeper level through the process of sales. And through that process, you will then transform somebody else's life. And like I had said earlier, entrepreneurs and healers are going to be the ones that change the world. And so my piece is to show you how you can make a bigger impact on those people.
Ah, I love that so much. And I think that really sums up the work that you do. You did that really well. Very well spoken. Uh, but yeah, and I do agree. I feel like it's going to be the healers and the entrepreneurs and the heart-centered
Yeah,
people of this planet. And I really think there's more of us than there's not.
I agree.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being on. I will make sure all the ways to get in touch with and work with Sasha are in the show notes so that you can connect with her and her magic. Till next time, much love.